Hello, this is Patricia from patriciafenty.com, and today I'm going to show you how to make this bohemian style ribbon necklace. And so this is the one we're going to be doing, which is a version of this one here. Now, this one here actually has an extra set of knots to make it more of a choker, and I have this wire wrapped pendant on this one. This one here I'm not going to demonstrate, but I'll talk about at the end how you can create this type of necklace using the same technique. And then this is the necklace that we're going to make today. And I have this pendant that is a walnut with crochet around it. And this is a separate tutorial that I'll be doing later on, but today I'm going to show you how to make this necklace. So let's get started. All right, so let's talk about yarn choices. So of course, ribbon yarn is the best choice for this style of necklace. And I have some really lovely ribbon yarns that I've collected over the years. These here are made by FFF. It's Joliet Multi. And I haven't found this online. I don't even know if they make it anymore. It's made in Italy. I have seen second sellers on Etsy and eBay selling this, but you might find it at your local yarn shop. That's where I found this, was at a local yarn shop several years ago. This here, I found these here, both of these at a thrift shop. So another type of ribbon yarn. This is like a chenille type yarn. And so basically anything that has a sort of texture, color, you can use cotton yarn, synthetic yarns, you can use wool blends, you can use anything you like, anything that has any kind of chunky texture. So I am going to make my ribbon necklace to go with this walnut, this crochet cover walnut. And again, I'll have a tutorial for that later on. So I want to incorporate a bit of the crochet cotton. So I have the crochet cotton around the walnut, and so I've just made a chain, a crochet chain of the crochet cotton, and I'll be working that strand into my necklace. And on that note, you could also use finer yarns and crochet a bunch of strands and use crocheted strands for this. So there really are so many possibilities for this. So that's what you need for yarn. Now the supplies you are going to need for this project, aside from the yarn, is some scissors, some chain nose pliers, wire cutters, a ruler or tape measure. You're going to need some 24 gauge wire, some fine wire in whatever color wire you choose for your theme. You'll need your pendants, of course. And I do have a tutorial on how to do wire wrap pendants. There will be a tutorial on how to do this pendant, so I'll have those links below. And then you're also going to need a closure, a hook and clasp. And I have these here, and I do have a tutorial for these as well. But you can use any hook and clasp that you like. But you do want something that has a fairly large opening that can hold all the ribbon in the end. So those are all the supplies that you'll need. As far as your ribbon, you're going to want to cut your pieces 28 inches in length, and a combination of anywhere between 3 to 7 strands depending on the weight and chunkiness of your ribbon. All right, so once you have all the strands cut, you want to bring one end of them all together. And if you're using a curly type of ribbon like this, your strands are not going to be perfectly exactly the same length. So just line up one end and then hold them nice and snug there. And you'll see here, I'll show you at the other end, and see they're not perfect at the other side. And if you're using crochet pieces, make sure you have the tail end that you fastened off. You use that end last, because once you tie all the knots together in the ribbon necklace, you may want to shorten or lengthen this if required. So you can see the ends here are not perfect, but that's okay. And now what you want to do is find the middle of your necklace strands, and you don't have to be perfect, just fold it over and line up your tail ends there. Pull that snug, finding the center, and then you just want to mark the center with a clip or a piece of yarn or something that will mark your center. And you want to tie this pretty snug so it doesn't come loose. And there you go. And once you have the center, again, making sure that's nice and snug, we're going to start by creating our first knot. So it doesn't matter which side you choose. This is where you want to use your ruler. Measure an inch to one side or the other. And just create a simple knot. So just wrap all the yarn around your finger. And it can be a little tricky to get all the yarn through here. And there we go. And then you want to create a nicely shaped knot. You want to hold it in the finger and sort of just gently pull each strand of yarn, each piece of ribbon, and shape the knot to the best of your ability. And snug it up as close as you can to the inch point. And see how the chenille is sort of there? So I pulled that, and I'm pulling the crocheted piece separately. And I'll bring this back and measure it on the ruler. And you can see I'm finishing the knot. The outside of the knot is on the inside of the 1 inch mark. So the knot is within the 1 inch measure. And pull it snug and keep working it so that it's nice and finished off so the knot is within the inch. Now at this point, it depends on what type of pendant you have, whether you're going to string your pendant on or not. In the case of a pendant like this, where you have an actual bail, you're going to want to string the pendant on now and then carry on with a knot on the other side. And if you have a pendant that has a jump ring, you can add that on at the end once the necklace is finished. And so you can just carry on and make all the knots of the necklace and add that on later. So if you are adding the pendant on now, it'll be a little bit awkward to work with. Now this one here, the bail is quite big, so you could probably slip it on after the fact. But say one like this, where the bail is quite small, I wouldn't be able to fit that over the knot, so I would put that on now. So it just depends on your pendant that you're choosing. So now what you want to do is go to the other side. You want to create the second knot. All right, I switched over to a cloth tape measure because I was getting too much reflection with the metal ruler. And so now we're going to do the knot on the other side, and I'm right-handed, so I'll just flip it around. And I'm just using the inch measure on this. This isn't the actual middle of the necklace, it's just where the tape measure is laying. So just create another knot, and again work the ribbon pieces, keeping the outside of the knot on the inside of the 1 inch measure. And there, that's looking pretty good. And this doesn't have to be exactly perfect. You're just trying to create an even knots, and you're creating a 2 inch space in the middle where the pendant will hang. And so there we go, you can see. So that center piece is in a 2 inch space. And you can just take the marker off now. There we go. So these are finished with 2 inches between the knots. So now we're going to do another knot, and this one is going to be done at the 2 inch mark, but we're going to measure over to the 2 inches and create another knot. And again, just working the ribbon and adjusting each individual strand to make a nice knot. Now in this case, we're going to start from the outside of the last knot and finishing the second knot on the inside of the 2 inches. So it's actually going to be a little smidgy more, but there'll be like 2 inches. You can see there I've got the outside on 10 inches and the inside on 12. And now you're going to do that on the other side. So there we go. Now, once you've done that, you want to make sure that your knots are matching up, that they're even on each side. So I'll pull this one a little bit more up and pull that down a little bit more down so that they're pretty even on each side, like that. And then you're going to do another set of knots at 2 inches on each side. So go ahead and do that, and I'll see you when we get back. Welcome back. And here we are. We have the center knots and then 2 more sets of knots 2 inches apart. And then you have your tails at the end here. Now at this point, if you had a pendant that had a larger bail that you could get over the knots, you'd want to thread that on now. Otherwise, you may be working with a pendant with a smaller bail and that's already on, you're working with it on. And then of course, I'm going to be using a jump ring to put mine on when I'm all done. At this point, we are going to put the clasp on. So what you want to do is take your ribbons and you're going to thread them onto your finding, and you want them to go through the double end of the loop here if you're using the loop and hook tutorial that I made here. So string the ribbon through just like that. And of course your ends here are going to be uneven. That's okay, we'll deal with that later. And then you want to take about a 7-inch piece of your 24 gauge wire and clip that. And then you'll fold your ribbon over. And you want to look for the shortest piece, leaving that at about 1 inch remaining. And then the other pieces you can trim and adjust later. So the shortest piece is about 1 inch. And looking at this, I'm going to actually make the crochet piece that's about 1 inch. So, you know, this is totally adjustable, and I'm going to bury that underneath a little bit. Then you're going to take your 24 gauge wire, and I apologize for going off the screen here a bit. And so I'm just going to make a couple little wraps around the 2 loops there. And you can secure this later. You don't have to make this really snug yet. Just get it started on the one side. And try not to lose all your ribbons. And you want to make sure you have your ribbons all nicely held. Then you're going to bring this wire down about a 1/2 inch or so. Keep that tail out of the way. Come down about a 1/2 inch and hold it with your thumb. And you'll start a wrap. And you want to make this sort of a flat wrap. Just sort of crimp it with your fingers. See how that's sort of flat? And then you want to bring the wire around below that first wrap. So the wire is sort of to the left of your first wrap, because we're going to just sort of encase that, if that makes sense. And then you want to pinch that wire down and make it flat. And you can use your chain nose pliers to crimp it. Make that nice and snug. Then you're going to continue to wrap the wire. So you have this flat sort of wrap, and you can crimp it on each wrap. I'm sorry again, I'm off screen here. I actually reshot all this, but the camera was off, so this one will have to do. But just keep wrapping and flattening it with your chain nose pliers and moving up towards the top of the clasp. And you can feel once you get to the base of the clasp. And then once you're back at the top, you'll bring your wire up and wrap it through the loop and use your pliers to wrap it tightly if you don't have much wire left to hold on to. Just put that through there. Pull that through. I'm just going to do one more wrap. So I've got like 3 wraps around this clasp. And bring it through the back and sort of scrunch them down with your finger. And then you want to take your cutters and just cut in at the back, cut it nice and close, and just crimp that in with your chain nose pliers. And then this side here, we'll just do the same thing. And fasten this with the, bring that around with another wrap, come through the back, and then we'll snip that at the back on the inside nice and close, and then just crimp that down. And there you go. And then what you can do is you're going to trim off all your little tail ends. So, and you want to be really careful with this. Don't trim your main ribbon. I've done that before. That's very disheartening. And if you don't want these little ends to fray, you can just use a little bit of fabric glue on them. Just snip that, and there we go. And that's that side all done. And you can see how that's been wrapped and holding all the yarns in. So go ahead and do that on the other side. I will do that as well, and I will be back. Welcome back. And of course, when you go to do the other side, you want to try to make these as evenly as possible from your last knot. It may not work out perfectly, but just do your best. So you can see how nicely that works. And you know, you could wear this just as a choker like this if you like. And when you go to put it on, you can just twist it a little bit like that before you put it on. And that twists all the ribbon together nicely. And now I'm going to put my pendant on. And so just opening up my jump ring here. And I have a fairly big jump ring so that I can get all the ribbon in there. And it's a little bit tricky, but there we go. And just closing up my jump ring. And there is my pendant all attached. And there, isn't that lovely? So yeah, I would twist this a little bit before putting it on and bring them together just like that. And isn't that a pretty bohemian ribbon necklace? And you can use this for any kind of pendant that you like. Now I just wanted to bring this necklace back in and show you how I did this. And so I have 6 knots, 3 on each side, but you can use the same idea and put more knots. And here's the center bead here, and there's 5 knots on each side with this one, about 1 inch apart. I used a different closure with this one. And then you just add these beads at every knot, and you make the beads and put them on jump rings and kind of add them to the ribbons within the knot. So that's another way that you can use this ribbon necklace. And you can do all kinds of fun things with this necklace. So here this one is. I think it looks so lovely. And I do love this cute little crocheted covered walnut. And I didn't show this yet, but here's the up-and-coming tutorial where I'll show you how you can crochet around rocks and beads or any type of object. So, and of course around walnuts. So there you go. A bohemian ribbon necklace that you can do in a lot of different ways. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more creative and inspiring videos. Thank you for joining me.